Hello everybody, this is Obscure Titan, and I'm showing you a work in progress of one of the scenes for Gnorcarchy. As you can see, this is a throne room, the underground throne room of Gnasty Gnorc. So to give some context as to what this scene is about and what it will probably show up throughout the story, is that Gnasty Gnorc is having his meeting with Soviet Union leader Yuri Andropov, who at the time was a Soviet leader from 1982 to 1984. If I can get that correctly, but I mean, the setting for Gnorcarchy takes place in 1983, so having him in the scene would make sense. But anyway, the first scene shows Yuri Andropov, and I'm actually going to set this to the final look of it. If that's how you call that. That's called rendered. But I started doing some camera work on how the camera is going to play out. So if I can get this to show. Okay. Alright, so I haven't actually finalized that yet, but it was supposed to zoom in just going past Yuri Andropov and then zooming into Gnasty Gnorc. And he was about to speak about what they're going to be talking about in the scene. They're essentially checking in on the progress of the super crystal bomb that they're going to be making. And Gnasty Gnorc was planning on using it once it's fully completed, and that he would eventually use it to turn Earth into a crystal ball. Or a disco ball, I should say, but a ball full of crystals, where he can use that would be a lifetime supply of gems and crystals for his resources. And so, in this scene, aside from Gnasty Gnorc, you can also see Dr. Shemp, who is on the, I would say, the left side of this throne space that he's in. And I'm actually going to turn all this off and just show you the preview. So there's Dr. Shemp, who was the second boss of Spyro the Dragon on the PS1. Here he is in his updated look. Not exactly the same as he had in Reignited, but pretty close to what he had on the PS1. Somewhat. And then you've got Metalhead, who is the fourth boss in the same game. Again, doesn't look too much exactly the same as his Reignited one. A little bit more of his PS1 look. But hey, it works. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to Material Preview. So things are looking a little bit brighter. So I'm going to switch different views, making sure things are not too bright. Okay. So here's Metalhead and Dr. Shemp and Gnasty Gnorc in this exact area that they're in. Here's Gnasty Gnorc's chair that he's sitting on. That's mostly made of gold, but with some other material that's been added in. And I wanted to double check to make sure what material that I added in, because if I forgot, then I would need to make sure that has material. Okay, so I might have actually forgot to add that in, but that can be for a later time. Just wanted to show you the progress and how this all is coming along so far. But I added a type of stone texture to the walls and a different type of texture to the floors and the ceiling. So that not everything is the same, but it still pops out very nicely. And you can probably tell a bunch of giant Gnorcs were building a lot of giant bricks to make the underground area. Since 1969, when they joined alliances with the Soviet Union, and then they started making an underground layer for the super crystal bomb to be made. And here's the frame for... I haven't really decided if this is going to be Gnasty Gnorc's uncle or his grandfather. It's still up in the air, but this is the frame that I actually drew. And I put it in as a texture to the frame. So going down here, and this is the bridge that I was going to do some animations with. Just kind of letting it slide in and out like this. You can just leave that there for right now. So, arguably the most difficult challenge when making this place and when making this scene was adding a synthetic energon lake kind of thing that's going on in the scene. Because one of the challenges really, I mean, it depends on how you want to go with your direction, is it takes a little bit of time to really getting to making this kind of water texture, which is something similar to what I did for the Etna investigation diorama that I was testing out with the rain. But this doesn't have the rain, so it doesn't really need the rain. Alright, so here's Yuri Andropov. I mean, if that's how you pronounce his name, but feel free to correct me in the comments. Just want to make sure I get the name correct. But there he is, standing face to face to Gnasty Gnorc, you know, as their mutual allies in this continuity. So I'm still working a bit on, well, actually I'm still working on getting the textures for the chair that Gnasty Gnorc is sitting on. So go ahead and switch to rendered, and I've added a light to Metalhead, because one of the things to note here is that he's got these lights that are on his arms and then his chest and horns and his eyes. I've only added one light. I was going to consider maybe adding another one, but I think one would just be fine as it is for right now. And I'm still thinking about how I'm going to, whether if I'm going to have individual lights for the crystals to have, or if it's just this light area that I added in that would have been enough, given that I have the synthetic energon pool that's underneath. So, I've got that being made. Also to note that I, in order to make a certain detail where it's not going to be seen a whole lot, but if it has to, then I added this little mesh that would give the illusion that something is further away, where the map would have been a lot larger when really it's just focusing on one scene. Like one area for the scene, I should say. And if I have to, I could make a hallway that's a bit further out in the distance. So something a little bit aligns on how the PS1 games used to have, is where they'll have this dead end appearance, where something is still up ahead, but it's not as highly focused as one scene is. So there's really not too much to going to go over, other than there's still some work to be done, and I'm going to see how I can maybe animate the characters. Well, not just with the talking, but also their movements, so that they can still be able to move. Now, there's going to be a lot more scenes to come for Gnorcarchy. Well, not a whole lot, but still more than what this scene has. So things like with the Oval Office, some scenes in Germany, such as West and East Germany. I mean, this is where the Berlin Wall will make an appearance, and maybe even some shots of San Diego, California, which is where Flan and Spyro would be living at in this entry. And given that this would take place in 1983, it would make sense for those scenes to appear. So, feel free to tell me what you think of the scene so far. What's your favorite part about the scene? And what are some things that you would like to see more of this project, or whatever else you want to say. So that's pretty much it for now, and catch you guys next time. Over and out.